Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Thursday morning. I am recording. About 5:30 in the morning on Thursdays is when we pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, and we draw it and we do an ink and watercolor wash. I'm just going to spritz these watercolors. I want to make sure they're nice and juicy, nice and moist. When it comes time to use them, I don't want to have to scrub into them. I just want to tappy into them. But we pull a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier on Thursdays at 5:30 in the morning. We actually do it every day at 5:30 in the morning. Today's random object is a moose. Now, this is a tiny moose. And they're moose. It's a herd of moose. It's a bunch of moose. Is Elizabeth here already? Good morning, Elizabeth. They're it's a herd of moose. There are 3 or 4 moose standing in the area where there is one moose standing in the room. It is a moose, and it is a bunch of moose. Moose is moose, and moose is moose, singular, and moose, plural. Now, that is because it is a Native American word, and it is not a German word. If it was a German word, it would follow the same rule as geese, goose and geese. But the name that stuck is the Native American word, even though moose are all over North America and Eurasia. Moose are all over the north. For some reason, the Native American word is the one that stuck. I did not think to research that. So if somebody in the chat wants to research that and let us know why that is the name that stuck, even though people have been hunting and eating these things for hundreds of years, thousands of years even, why is it the Native American name is the name that stuck? Oh, Elizabeth, you poor thing. Elizabeth's not feeling well, so she's not eating. But it is her lunchtime. She is in the Netherlands. I love the fact that I have people in the Netherlands joining us, especially today because there are moose in the Netherlands. Elizabeth, look up why they chose to call moose by the Native American term moose instead of whatever they called them in Switzerland and Sweden and all the places in northern Europe where they have moose also. And it's moose, it's not mooses. It is moose, not mooses. Anyway, I like to call them mooses because I think it's funny. And my daughter came in here last night and she said, no, it's not moose, it's meese. And no, it can't be meese because those are the tiny ones. Those are mouse. Meese is mouse. I hates Mises to pieces, as my grandmother says. And I think she got that from some cartoon cat. The blocking was pretty simple. Just a bunch of long triangles because they're long, gangly things. Blocking was pretty simple, so from here on out, it's just a matter of adding the details and anchoring the points. I'm not even sure what they call moose in the Netherlands. I think they call them elk. I think they call them. I think I saw somewhere that they were called elk because they're in that family. They're ruminids. They're in the deer family. It is weird to call them meese. we know it's not meese. I like to call them mooses though because I think it's funny. I had never seen a moose hang out with a flying squirrel, but There was a television show about it, which I also think is funny. Hey, Rocky. Moose evolved from Cervalces. I think that's how you say that, Cervalces, which is another actually type of moose that broke free from the deer family, Cervidae. That moose broke from the deer family about 25 million years ago. About the same time giraffes were breaking free from the family. There was an explosion of different types of deer and elk at the time, and modern moose, alces, separated from the Cervalces somewhere around 100,000 years ago. And then the Cervalces died off, outcompeted by the alces. So the modern moose outcompeted the Cervalces. And what's funny is the research immediately blames hunting. The research immediately blames the rise of man for the demise of the Cervalces, except that there were no men. 100,000 years ago, there were only about 1 million men on the planet, 2 million men on the planet, and they weren't all in Northern Europe, North America. There weren't any in North America at the time. So you can't blame the demise of the Cervalces on mankind. But you can blame it on alces, the moose. Because this sucker is very good at breeding. This sucker is very good. Oh, look, there's all kinds of news. Oh, that's a lot of stuff, Elizabeth. The name moose is derived from the Algonquin languages. Algonquin's Native American, 1600s. That's a lot of words. And they're tiny words. But why? Yeah, they're called elk. The large deer species called elk in Europe had gone extinct in the British Isles by the time English arrived in North America. Okay, so the English didn't have mooses anymore. And so when they saw the mooses, the Algonquins said, these are moose. And so the English said, oh, okay, moose. But moose exist in Sweden. Moose exist in Europe still. These things are rapid breeders for megafauna. They'll produce 1 or 2 calves. The mothers will produce 1 or 2 calves a season. And she only gestates for 7 months or so. And that is very rapid for megafauna. The megafauna are the big animals that came up 25 million years ago, and most of them are gone. Mastodons, mammoths, most of the megafauna are gone. Moose are distinct for having these palmate antlers that they regrow every year. And the size will tell you how old they were. In Holland, we call moose eland. In Holland, they call the moose eland. Who said the moose mating season is only 36 hours a year? Where did that come from? Is my mom looking stuff up too? I heard my mom said that in my ear, that they're only in heat for like 36 hours a year. Eland. A is in ace. Eland. Oh. So anyway, these things are very, very good at outbreeding things. They're, as far as the megafauna is concerned, these things are really good at breeding, and that has really helped them out because they're in a cold area where no other animal wants to be. They fill a niche. The humans don't really want to live there, so there's no competition with domestication. The other animals, the other animals, the predate on them are the wolves and the bears. You know, the bears sleep half the year, so that's handy. Wolves takes an entire pack to bring an adult moose down, so that there's not. They mostly predate on calves, which the mothers and the sires are very protective of, and they're extremely territorial. So they don't even suffer the idea of a wolf being in their area. They don't like dogs, they don't like wolves, and they don't really like people. They look all nice and peaceful, but they don't really like people. And if you've never seen one, the pictures and videos of these things walking through traffic is eye-opening because they're huge. They are huge. Minivan huge. Taller than a minivan huge. They're huge. But they evolved in Asia and moved to the Americas via the Bering land bridge. Again, some 12,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, somewhere around in there. And then the land bridge sealed up and left them isolated in the Americas and Eurasia. So they're still in Eurasia. And they're still in North America. And the really neat thing is, kind of like the penguins we talked about the other day, and the panda dolphin, they have different pods around the world, but they haven't really speciated. Unlike the bighorn sheep that we talked about the other day, the bighorn sheep speciated very rapidly, and the difference is the pressures for genetic change. The bighorn sheep in the Americas face vastly different terrain and predation than the sheep in Europe. So they had to adapt quickly, and their need for their desire to be on craggy ground limited them onto where they could go. So they couldn't just travel back and forth across the strait once they got here. Where these things, they got here, they went back and forth a few times, and then they got isolated because the Bering Strait, because the, hi Claudia, because the ice melted and flooded the Bering Strait and isolated the pods, the North American pod from the European pod. But there's no pressure to change. They have the same predation, wolves and bears. They have the same taiga landscape, which is the cool, cold, seasonal forests, boreal forests, uh, limited exposure to mankind and domesticated animals, so there's no pressure there. No mountain lions, no nothing like that, no snakes. So they have the same genetic pressures on both sides. They didn't have any reason to differentiate. And so these guys are basically still the same species. Yeah, you throw them together, they'll still mate, they'll still recognize each other as mooses. And I know it's moose, I just think it's funny. But they'll still recognize each other, and they will still mate with each other. They have not speciated, even though they have been apart for 12 to 15,000 years. Now, 12 to 15,000 years is not very long geologically. I am aware. Da, 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 da. Let's see. I'm about out of indigo here. Let me add some more water there. You know, as humid as this place is, you would think this water would last longer. So let's get some indigo. Let's add just a little bit of blue, just a little bit of that royal blue to it, and then just a touch of black. And what we're doing is we're making kind of a homemade Payne's gray. I like to keep a homemade Payne's gray going there so that I can shade stuff. Still a little too not enough water. Go for the big shapes first. Try to keep all these big shapes together. Do. So they're still this. No, this is a moose. Here, let me show you. Over the shoulder wide, or overhead wide. Overhead wide. Overhead wide. It's a moose. See him little antlers and little ears? My adopted granddaughter, Mac and Cheese Macaroon, drew that for me. Sent that to me in a text message. She saw that we were doing a moose today on the show, and she drew that and colored it and sent it to me. What other side? Is there a rabbit on the other side? I don't know what other side we're talking about then. Ah, she sees it now. Okay, good. I can understand it. We went by quickly. But no, my little adopted granddaughter, Mac and Cheese Macaroon, drew that one for us. She saw that we were doing a moose on the show today, and she volunteered for the artwork for the side. I think she did a fantastic job. See him little antlers. So these things are not endangered. They're not considered endangered in any way. There's about 2 million of them on the planet. They think. They're not really sure because they don't like to be counted. And they're very private. They hide out in very remote areas. I don't blame them. I don't like to be counted either. But they don't like being around people at all, except where people encroach them with cars. They tend to get hit by cars quite frequently. And the fun thing about hitting a moose with a car, if you've never seen that footage, the moose, you hit the legs, and then you get a ton of moose through the windshield. And the moose may still get up and walk it off, but you are not going to. You are going to add some indication of fur here in the shadows. Well, my wife is going to be mad at me. I shut her in the room with the dogs this morning when I came downstairs, and I can hear the dogs moving around, which means my wife has to get up and deal with them. She's going to be mad at me. But they're not endangered. They're hunted to maintain the species, the integrity of the species. In the U.S., they're heavily regulated. The hunting is heavily regulated. They do a lottery to make sure that they don't have too many culled from the herd, and they don't have too many issues with genetic diversity being eliminated, because they'll give more permits for cows than they will for bulls in order to ensure more genetic diversity. In Sweden, however, though, they have some 80,000 permits that they give out every year, and they cull about 70,000 of these things every year because the population are just that thick. The populations are just that thick in the area, and the population is considered very stable. So there's nothing to worry about there. But the hunting is heavily regulated worldwide. The hunting is heavily regulated to ensure that they don't get hunted out of existence, as some other animals have done. Where is my paper towel there that I use? I need to darken some of these shadows across here so that we have some more form. I am going to do that eventually, Mother, yes. My mother's worried that I'm going to run out of time talking about these things. They're very good swimmers. They eat shrubs and low-hanging branches. They're browsers. So they eat the young branches. They eat the marsh grasses, and sometimes they swim from island to island in the north to get to food and to escape predation. And the really interesting thing about that swim from island to island is, and I mentioned this in the trailer earlier, I wanted to get to this today, that when they're swimming, they are subject to being eaten by orcas. Now, whether they are a staple of orcas or whether it is a once in a while thing, or maybe there's only one ever incidence of it. If I had a nickel for every time it happened, I'd only have a nickel, but it's weird that I'd have a whole nickel. I didn't even warn you. I just turned the hair dryer on. Didn't even warn you. That's because we're down to the last 4 minutes, and I've got to wrap this up. I still got to down to the last 4 minutes, and I've got to wrap this up. We still have. Let's see. Let's do a little of this dark blue, and let's add a touch of this green. Just a touch of this green, and then we're going to do something really cool. We're going to add a little bit of orange to it to get that brown. I have a brown in my crayon box here, in my paint box here, but I don't really like it. And the next time it goes empty, which may never go empty because I don't use it, the next time it empties, I think I'm going to replace it with a different color that I use more frequently, like indigo or purple, something that I would use more frequently. But yeah, the orca whale is a major predator of moose. Not something one thinks about. Not something one thinks about on land mammals as big as mooses, as big as a moose. One doesn't really think about them being eaten by orca whales. But we know it happened at least once. We actually know it's happened a few times. And again, stories vary as to whether it's a staple of the orca diet, like it's a seasonal thing that orcas gather for, or if it's just something that's been witnessed once or twice. And what really makes that interesting to me is most sea life will spit land life out. So like when sharks bite into people, they typically let go because they don't taste right. They're expecting an oily seal or a fish or something, and they get a person, and it's not what they were expecting, and so they'll spit it out like broccoli. But not the orcas. Orcas are sitting there calculating and very smart, and they work out, hey, this is something different. Let's eat this. And so they do. Orcas are very different types of hunters. And they are big enough. They are big enough to eat a moose. So they just swoop through and scoop them up, take them down. And you can imagine the sharks who wouldn't eat a land mammal like that. You can imagine the sharks looking away in terror and disgust, clutching their pearls. Oh my, how crude! I can just see that. Oh, how crude! While the orca just sits over there munching away. So, there's a fun fact. Claudia likes broccoli. Claudia. Always one. There's always one. I love broccoli. Of course you do. course you do. Lots of people like broccoli. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever seen either of my sons eat broccoli. I mean, I'm sure they do. But I know that my wife likes broccoli because I caught her cheating on me with broccoli once. I had a standing rule: you can't bring broccoli into the house because if you put broccoli in the refrigerator, everything in the refrigerator will taste like broccoli. And I came home, and sure enough, there was broccoli in the house. I could smell it in the fridge. And when I confronted her about it, she broke down in tears. She apologized, said it would never happen again. We almost ended our marriage over it. That's not true. That's not true. But I did come home and find broccoli in the fridge and was quite disgusted by it. My mom says, "Yeah, right. Put your boots on. It's getting deep in here now." Yeah, like I'm going to find another woman that would put up with me. I'm not risking that. But I know both my daughters like broccoli. My oldest daughter sent me a picture the other day where she had prepared broccoli for dinner, and I threatened to disown her. I threatened to take her over to the fire station. Here in the U.S., if you feel like you can't raise your kids, you can take them to the firehouse, and they will take them to the adoption agency for you. And I always threatened my 30-something-year-old daughter with taking her to the firehouse and turning her in. And now she's like, "Oh yes, please take me over to the firemen." Oh no, not the firemen. Don't throw me in the briar patch. Yeah, she's currently dating a fireman, so that's what makes it even funnier. That's what makes it funnier. She is currently dating a fireman. I don't think I could fit her in that little box anyway. They have these little boxes that they monitor. They're well cared for, where you deposit the infant instead of leaving it outside the door where something could happen to it. You put it in this little box, and it's well cared for. It's well monitored. I just don't think she'd fit in that box. Brussels sprouts? Brussels sprouts are still broccoli. Brussels sprouts, cabbage, it's all still broccoli. But I like cabbage. I don't have as much problem with cabbage as I do with broccoli. And I don't mind Brussels sprouts for some reason. But broccoli, there's just, that flavor just gets me. What is today? The 31st? Goodness, and it's after 6. We've got to go. 31. It's the last day of July. July 2025. I am me. All right. So there is my moose by the reference photo. Give me just a second here and I'll show it to you from my perspective. Turn that microphone off so I don't forget, let the battery run down because I'm not using it and it's on and not connected to anything. Stop that recording, eject that camera. I will come up with a better way for this. I actually found an old phone that I can use to take pictures with. So we'll see. Over the weekend, we'll experiment with that. So here we go. Here we go from my perspective on how that moose went. So that's what I did this morning. And the photograph is posted to my community page. If you'd like to draw along and send me a copy of what you drew, I'd love to see it. Just go to my YouTube community page, and you can see all of the reference photos of everything I draw goes to the community page. So if you want to play along, you are more than welcome to join me there and play along. The little girl has already pulled a canister for tomorrow. This one's not an egg. Has already pulled a canister for tomorrow. So let's see what it is. And it appears to be an old Woody pickup truck. Old Woody pickup truck. I don't know yet. I don't know yet whether it's Ford or Chevy. I believe that it is Chevy. Just by looking at the grill on the front, I believe that it is Chevy. It is something we will talk about tomorrow. We'll go through all the identifying features of this thing and see what all we can figure out about it. But that is what we're doing tomorrow, August 1st. Friday. Is tomorrow Friday? Friday, August 1st. That is what we're going to do tomorrow. So if you're watching this and it's before 5:30 in the morning on Friday, August 1st, this is what we're going to do here in just a bit. We're going to get started on this, so just stick around. We'll get right on it. You're watching the trailer. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're watching the trailer, and we're about to start this. But for the rest of us, we're wrapping up because I am 7 minutes past time. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate this. This keeps me accountable to my art practice, and I get to art with my besties. I look forward to it every day. Be sure and tune in tomorrow, same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because once they see me dancing, I know the lag has caught up to the stream. And once the lag catches up to the stream,